The explosions lit up the dark void of space like 1,000 dying stars. Two massive fleets tore into each other with weapons that could melt planets. The Empire ships were black and sharp, like knives cutting through the darkness. The Coalition vessels glowed with blue energy, their hulls covered in strange symbols that pulsed with light. Commander stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching another enemy cruiser break apart under his weapon's fire. His 4 eyes tracked the debris field with cold efficiency. 200 years of war had made him an expert at killing. He felt nothing watching thousands of die in the vacuum of space. This was just another battle in a war that had consumed both civilizations for longer than most could remember. "Target their command ship," ordered. His voice was flat, emotionless. "Focus all forward batteries." The weapons hammered into the flagship. Energy shields flickered and died. Hull plates melted under the assault, but they fought back with equal fury. Their particle beams sliced through 3 destroyers, turning them into clouds of burning metal. On the other side of the battlefield, High Chancellor watched from her own command center. Her people were dying, but she showed no weakness. The war had to continue. It had always continued. Neither side could remember exactly why they started fighting, but that did not matter anymore. The fighting itself had become the reason. "Deploy the resonance mines," commanded. "Drive them back." Hundreds of small weapons floated between the fleets. When the ships moved forward, the mines exploded with force that ripped reality itself. Space twisted and folded. 2 battlecruisers vanished, torn apart at the atomic level. The battle raged for hours. Ships died on both sides. Thousands of lives ended in fire and vacuum. Neither fleet would retreat. To retreat meant weakness, and weakness meant the enemy would push forward and take another system, another planet, another victory. Far from the battle, a small human ship drifted through space. The Horizon's Edge was an exploration vessel, not a warship. Its mission was simple: map new star systems, study interesting phenomena, and search for signs of intelligent life. Captain Daniel Wright sat in his command chair, reviewing the day's sensor data with mild interest. "Captain, we are picking up unusual readings," Lieutenant Amy Brooks said from her science station. She was young, barely 30, with bright eyes that loved discovering new things. "Heavy energy signatures about 3 light years away. Very heavy." Wright leaned forward. "Define heavy." "Enough energy output to power Earth's entire civilization for a year," Amy said. Her fingers danced across her console. "And it is not constant. It comes in bursts like weapons fire." Commander Grant, the ship's military advisor, stood up from his station. He was older than Amy, with gray at his temples and scars on his hands from a dozen minor conflicts back on Earth. "Could be a natural phenomenon. Magnetar pulses, maybe." "The pattern is wrong for natural causes," Amy insisted. She pulled up the data on the main screen. "Look at the intervals, too regular, too organized." Wright studied the information. His gut told him this was important. "Change course. Let's take a look, but stay at the edge of sensor range. If someone is shooting that much energy around, I want to be able to run if we need to." The Horizon's Edge turned and accelerated. It took 6 hours to reach the edge of the system. What they found made everyone on the bridge go silent. "My God," Amy whispered. They showed a battle that belonged in nightmares. Hundreds of ships, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built, were locked in brutal combat. Weapons fire crisscrossed the void. Explosions bloomed and faded. Debris fields spread for thousands of kilometers. 2 distinct fleet configurations," said his military training taking over. "Both highly advanced, technology level far beyond ours." Wright watched a ship the size of a small city get cut in half by a beam weapon. The 2 halves drifted apart, leaking atmosphere and bodies. "Are they even aware of each other as people, or is this just slaughter?" "Scanning for communication channels," Amy said. Her voice shook slightly. She had never seen violence on this scale. "I am picking up thousands of transmissions. Both sides are talking, negotiating, even arguing during the battle." "What are they saying?" Amy listened through her translator program, which struggled with the alien languages. "Demands for surrender, threats, references to territories and old grievances. They know each other well. This is not a first contact situation." "This is an old war," said quietly. "Maybe very old." One of the ships detected the Horizon's Edge, saw the strange vessel on his sensors and dismissed it immediately. Too small to be a threat. Too primitive to matter. Probably some minor species that stumbled into the wrong place. Ignore it, ordered. Focus on the... But they had also seen the human ship, looked at the sensor reading with mild curiosity. What is that? A scout ship. Unknown configuration, her sensor officer replied. Primitive propulsion, minimal weapons, not from either of our civilizations. Ignore it then, we have more important matters. Wright saw both fleets dismiss his ship. It should have been a relief, but it made him angry instead. These two civilizations were killing each other by the thousands, and they could not even spare a moment to acknowledge another intelligent species. Open a communication channel, Wright ordered. All frequencies, let them know we are here. Captain, that might draw their fire, warned. They are already ignoring us. Maybe if they know someone is watching, they will think twice about what they are doing. The Horizon's Edge broadcast on every channel it could access. Wright's message was simple and direct. This is Captain Daniel Wright of the human vessel Horizon's Edge. We are from Earth. We are witnessing your conflict and wish to offer ourselves as neutral mediators. There is no dispute that cannot be solved through talking. Stop this killing and let us help you find peace. The message reached both fleets. On the flagship actually laughed. The sound was harsh and bitter. Mediators, these primitives think they can end a war that has lasted 2 centuries. Ignore them. On the command ship smiled coldly. Children playing with fire, they have no idea what forces they are dealing with. Continue the assault. Wright waited for a response. None came. The battle continued as if he had not spoken at all. Captain, we should leave, said firmly. This is not our fight, and we are outmatched by orders of magnitude. Before Wright could answer, a stray missile locked onto the Horizon's Edge. It was not even intentional. The missile's guidance system had been damaged in the battle and picked the nearest target that was not broadcasting a friendly signal. Incoming, Amy shouted. The explosion hit the Horizon's Edge along its starboard side. The small ship spun wildly. Alarms screamed. The lights flickered and died, replaced by emergency red illumination. Wright gripped his chair as the ship stabilized. Damage report. Hull breach on deck 3. Shields are down. Main engines offline. We are drifting, said, his fingers flying over the tactical console. The ship's computer worked to seal the breach. Emergency systems kicked in. Slowly, the Horizon's Edge regained basic control. Wright looked at the battle still raging on the... Neither side had even noticed they hit him. His ship and crew meant nothing to them. Just an accident, a piece of collateral damage in their ancient war. Get us out of here, Wright said quietly. Best speed, we need to get back to Earth. The jump drive needs 4 hours to recharge, Amy reported. Then we drift and we wait, and we record everything. Every weapon, every tactic, every communication. Earth needs to know about this. As the Horizon's Edge limped away from the battlefield, Wright watched the 2 fleets continue their endless dance of death. Thousands died while he watched, and neither side cared about anything except their own hatred. He made a decision in that moment. Humanity would care. Humanity would do something. Somehow they would end this war, even if these ancient civilizations thought it was impossible. The United Earth Council chamber was silent as the holographic display showed the battle footage from the Horizon's Edge. 300 representatives from every nation and colony watched alien ships tear each other apart. The violence was cold and efficient. No mercy, no hesitation, just endless killing. Captain Daniel Wright stood beside the display, his arm in a sling from the attack. He had spent 3 weeks getting his damaged ship back to Earth. Now he had to convince the Council that humanity needed to act. How long has this war been going on? Asked Ambassador Torres from the diplomatic section. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too many peace talks fail. Based on their communications and the wear patterns on their older ships, we estimate at least 200 years, Wright replied. Maybe longer. They have been fighting so long that some of their soldiers do not even know why the war started. A council member from the Asian Pacific Bloc raised her hand. Why should this concern us? They are light years away. We have enough problems here on Earth. Because they are moving closer, Wright said firmly. He changed the display to show a star map. Red and blue markers indicated an territory. Both empires are expanding. In 50 years, maybe less, they will reach our colonial systems. And when they do, they will not see us as people. They will see us as resources or obstacles. Or targets, added Commander Grant, standing beside Wright. These civilizations have been at war for 2 centuries. They think in terms of threats and allies. Neutrality will not protect us. Admiral Hall stood from her seat in the military section. She was a short woman with iron-gray hair and a reputation for being both brilliant and ruthless. What are you suggesting, Captain? That we go to war with 2 civilizations that have technology far beyond ours? No, Admiral. I am suggesting we stop their war before it reaches us. The chamber erupted in voices. Some laughed. Others shouted questions. A few looked at Wright like he had lost his mind. Tors raised his hand for silence. As chief diplomat, he had the authority to control the debate. Explain, Captain, how does humanity stop a war between powers that can destroy planets? Wright took a breath. He had practiced this speech during the long trip home. We are not stronger than them, we are not smarter, but we are different. These civilizations have been fighting the same war the same way for 200 years. They are locked into patterns, traditions, strategies that have not changed in decades. They are predictable. And we are not, added. Human military history is full of adaptations, innovations, and tactics that break the rules. We fight dirty when we need to. We change strategies mid-battle. We think outside the box because we have not had time to build a box yet. Dr. Sophie Martin, the Council's chief, stood up. She was young for her position, barely 40, with sharp intelligence that showed in every word. I have analyzed the biological data from the recordings. Both species are physically superior to humans in many ways. They are stronger. They are faster. Both have better reflexes and more efficient metabolisms. In a fair fight, we lose. Then we do not fight fair, Admiral Hall said. She was looking at Wright with new interest. What is your actual proposal, Captain? Wright nodded to Amy Brooks, who had accompanied him to Earth. She pulled up new data on the display. We spent the journey analyzing their tactics. Both sides use traditional formation fighting. They arrange their ships in fixed patterns and trade fire until one side breaks. Their strategies are based on attrition. They wear each other down over months or years. Human naval doctrine is different, continued. We use speed, deception, and asymmetric warfare, small forces hitting weak points. Guerrilla tactics. We make the enemy react to us instead of fighting on their terms. You want to intervene in their war, Tors said slowly. Not to conquer them, but to force them to stop fighting. Exactly, Wright confirmed. We position ourselves as the wild card, the unpredictable element. We hit both sides equally, not to destroy them, but to make them realize that continuing their war is more costly than making peace. That could unite them against us, someone warned. It could, Wright admitted. But based on their communications, I do not think they will. They hate each other too much. 2 centuries of war has made that hatred their identity. They would rather deal with us separately than work together. Admiral Hall walked to the front of the chamber. She studied the tactical displays with a professional eye. This is insane. We would be putting our ships and people in the middle of a meat grinder. Yes, Admiral, Wright said. But if we do nothing, that meat grinder comes to us eventually, and when it does, we will not be ready. The Council debated for 6 hours. Arguments flew back and forth. Some called the plan suicidal. Others called it humanity's moral duty to stop the killing. A few pointed out that if humanity could end this war, it would establish Earth as a major power in the galaxy. Finally, Tors called for a vote. All in favor of authorizing military intervention to end the conflict. The vote was close, 153 for intervention, 147 against. Humanity would act. Admiral Hall was given command of the task force. She immediately began pulling together a fleet. It would not be the largest force Earth had ever assembled, but it would be the most desperate. Every ship would be needed. Every tactic would be tested. In the command center of Earth's military headquarters, Hall spread out the tactical plans. Wright and a dozen other officers stood around the table. We cannot match them in firepower, Hall said. So we match them in confusion. We hit them where they do not expect. We break their formations. We make them question everything they think they know about warfare. Lieutenant Sanders, a tactical analyst with a gift for seeing patterns, pointed to the star map. Both fleets operate on predictable schedules. They regroup here, resupply there, and engage in major battles along these lines. They are like clockwork. Then we throw a wrench into the clock, said. We show up where they do not expect. We force them to react to us. We will also need special operations teams, Wright added. Boarding parties, Teams that can infiltrate their ships and disable key systems without destroying them. We want to embarrass them, not massacre them. Hall nodded. I will assign Commander Jacob Hill's unit. They are the best we have at unconventional warfare. Jacob Hill was brought into the planning session. He was a quiet man with cold eyes and a reputation for completing impossible missions. He listened to the plan without speaking, then asked one question. Are we authorized to take casualties to protect their civilians? Yes, Hall said without hesitation. This mission is about stopping the killing. That means protecting innocent lives, even alien ones. Hill nodded, then we are in. For 2 months, Earth prepared. Civilian cargo ships were refitted with military-grade shields and weapons. Old warships were pulled out of mothballs and upgraded. Training programs ran around the clock, teaching human crews how to fight against enemies that were faster and stronger. Sophie Martin studied the alien psychology. She compiled reports on their cultures, their belief systems, their weaknesses. The value strength and honor, she told the command staff. They see compromise as weakness, the value wisdom and tradition. They see change as dangerous. Both civilizations are trapped by their own values. And humans, Tors asked. We value survival and adaptation, Sophie said. We change because we have to. That is our advantage. Tors prepared diplomatic packages, first contact protocols, peace proposals, offers of mediation. He did not expect either side to accept immediately, but he would keep trying. Someone has to be the voice of reason, he said, even if no one listens at first. Sanders developed tactical scenarios. She ran thousands of simulations, testing different approaches. Most ended in disaster, but a few showed promise. If we can survive the first engagement, she told Hall, they will start taking us seriously. And if we cannot survive, Hall asked. Then Earth prepares for war in 50 years instead of peace today. The fleet gathered at the edge of human space. 40 ships. It was not much compared to the hundreds that each alien empire could field, but it was everything humanity could spare. Each ship was loaded with weapons, supplies, and the hopes of an entire species. On the bridge of her flagship, the Newton's Pride, Admiral Hall looked at her crew. Young faces and old, experienced veterans and fresh recruits. All of them knew this mission could fail. All of them knew they might not come home. We are about to do something no one has ever done before, Hall said over the ship-wide channel. We are going to end a war that has lasted 2 centuries, not because we are stronger, not because we are smarter, but because we refuse to accept that endless killing is inevitable. She paused, letting her words sink in. Both sides will underestimate us. Let them. Both sides will ignore us. Let them. We will show them what humanity can do when we decide something needs to change. Captain Wright stood beside her on the bridge. His ship, the Horizon's Edge, had been repaired and upgraded. It would serve as a scout vessel for the fleet. Are you ready, Captain? Hull asked quietly. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace directly between the 2 alien armadas. 40 human ships appeared in a flash of twisted light, right in the middle of what should have been the opening shots of the largest battle in the 200-year war. On the flagship, Commander stared at his tactical display in confusion. What are those ships doing here? Where did they come from? His sensor officer checked the readings twice. They are the same primitive vessels we detected 3 months ago, Commander. They jumped right into the battle zone. Are they insane? Sfour eyes narrowed. Clear them from the field, 1 warning shot, then destroy them if they do not move. Across the void, High Chancellor had the same reaction. The primitive species returns. Do they not understand what is about to happen here? Remove them. We have a war to fight. Admiral Hall stood on the bridge of Newton's Pride, watching both fleets turn their attention toward the human vessels. Exactly as planned. She opened a channel to both sides, broadcasting on every frequency. This is Admiral Hall of the United Earth Fleet. We are here to demand an immediate ceasefire. You will both stand down and accept Earth as a neutral mediator, or we will make you stand down. The transmission reached both command ships. Actually laughed. It was a cold, harsh sound. They demand, these creatures with their tiny ships demand that we stop our war. He opened a return channel. This is Commander of the Empire. You have 10 seconds to leave this system or be destroyed. We are about to engage the enemy, and you are in our way. Sent her own message. Leave now, humans. This conflict is beyond your understanding. We have fought for 2 centuries. We will not stop because some newcomers ask politely. Depart immediately or be eliminated as a tactical inconvenience. Hall looked at Captain Wright, who stood at the tactical station. Well, they gave us a chance to run. Yes, Admiral, Wright said. Shall we show them why we did not take it? Hall smiled grimly. All ships execute plan chaos, show them what human warfare looks like. The human fleet scattered. Instead of holding a tight formation like the alien fleets expected, each ship went its own direction. They moved fast, using their smaller size and lighter mass to change vectors in ways the massive alien battleships could not match. Watched in confusion as the human ships broke apart. What are they doing? That is not a battle formation. They are just running in random directions. But it was not random. Lieutenant Sanders had planned every movement. The human ships wove between the two alien fleets, forcing them to either fire through the humans to hit each other or adjust their targeting. It bought seconds, but seconds mattered. Lieutenant Amy Brooks activated the first surprise. Jamming systems active. Every human ship began broadcasting powerful interference signals. The sophisticated alien sensors, designed to track thousands of targets across vast distances, suddenly went blind. The humans had studied the alien technology and found its weak points. The jamming was crude but effective. I cannot see anything, sensor officer shouted. The primitives are flooding all channels with noise. On the flagship's crew reported the same problem. Chancellor, our sensors are compromised. We cannot track either the humans or the fleet. Then fire blind, ordered. Saturate the area with weapons fire, something will hit. Both fleets opened fire, but without clear targets, their shots went wild. Powerful energy beams and missiles crossed the void, hitting nothing but empty space. The humans dodged and weaved, their smaller ships dancing between the fire like insects avoiding a giant's hands. Commander Grant led a squadron of fast attack ships toward the line. All wings, attack pattern Delta, hit the shield generators on those cruisers, then break off. The human fighters screamed toward the massive warships. The aliens tried to track them, but the jamming and the erratic flight paths made it nearly impossible. The human ships fired missiles at close range, then spun away before the return fire could catch them. 3 cruisers lost their shields, not destroyed, just disabled. Embarrassed, the mighty warships floated helpless while their crews scrambled to restore power. Roared in anger. How are they doing this? They are primitives. Their technology is inferior. Their tactics are not, Commander, his tactical officer said quietly. They are not fighting like any species we have encountered. There is no pattern, no formation, just chaos. On the other side of the battlefield, they were having the same problem. Commander Jacob Hill's Special Forces team had been launched in stealth pods hours before the main fleet arrived. Now they drifted among the ships, undetected in the confusion. Hill's team attached magnetic charges to the hull of a destroyer, not explosives, something better. Charges set, 3, 2, 1, activate. The charges released a powerful electromagnetic pulse. Every system on the destroyer shut down at once. Engines died. Weapons went offline. Life support failed. The ship went dark and began to drift. What happened? Demanded. That ship just went dead. We do not know, Chancellor. It is as if someone shut down all their systems at once. Hill and his team were already moving to the next target. They had practiced this for months. Get in, disable the ship, get out. Do not kill unless absolutely necessary. The mission was not to slaughter the aliens, it was to humiliate them, to show them that their mighty fleets could be defeated by a force 1/10 their size. The battle continued for 2 hours. The human ships never stayed still, never formed a predictable pattern. They struck and vanished, disabled and departed, confused and frustrated both alien fleets. A battleship fired at what it thought was a human ship, but the target was actually a cruiser on the other side. The friendly fire incident caused chaos in the formation as ships scrambled to avoid hitting each other. Wright saw the confusion and seized the opportunity. All civilian transports are evacuating from the planet below. We need to protect them until they can jump to safety. Amy checked the sensors. I count 18 transports, mixed and civilians. They are caught between the battle lines. A dreadnought, frustrated by the human interference, locked weapons on the fleeing civilian ships. The civilians were enemy citizens, valid targets in the total war both sides had been fighting. Wright saw the weapons charging. His ship was closest, he did not hesitate. Full speed, ram configuration, divert all power to forward shields. Looked at him in shock. Captain, we cannot survive that impact. We do not need to survive. We need to stop them from killing those civilians. Do it. The Horizon's Edge turned and accelerated directly at the dreadnought. The aliens saw the small human ship coming and tried to adjust their aim, but Wright's timing was perfect. The Horizon's Edge slammed into the dreadnought's main weapons array just as it fired. The collision destroyed Wright's ship. The bow crumpled like paper. The shields overloaded and failed. But the impact knocked the dreadnought's aim off by 3 degrees. The weapon fire missed the civilian transports and burned harmlessly into space. All hands abandon ship, Wright shouted as alarm screamed. Get to the escape pods now. The crew scrambled. Emergency systems kicked in. Escape pods launched in all directions as the Horizon's Edge broke apart. Pulled right toward the nearest pod. Move, Captain, we have seconds. They tumbled into the pod with Amy and 4 other crew members. The pod launched just before the ship's reactor exploded. They tumbled through space, watching their vessel die. Did the transports get away? Wright asked, blood running down his face from a cut on his forehead. Amy checked the pod's sensors. Yes, Captain, all 18 made it to safe jump distance. They are gone. Wright nodded and passed out. Ship, the Desert Storm, swept in and recovered the escape pods. They pulled in 42 survivors from the Horizon's Edge. 2 crew members had died in the initial impact. Wright was unconscious but alive. The sacrifice was not wasted. Both alien fleets had seen the humans throw away a ship to save civilians. Enemy civilians, people they had no reason to protect. Watch the recording of the collision 3 times. They sacrificed themselves for citizens. Why would they do that? Perhaps, his tactical officer said slowly, they value all life, not just their own. On the flagship watched the same footage. Her expression was unreadable. That was either the bravest or most foolish act I have ever witnessed. Perhaps both, Chancellor. Admiral Hall saw what Wright had done. She made her voice hard so no one would hear the emotion in it. All ships, increase the pressure, make them hurt, make them see that continuing this battle will cost them more than they can afford. The human fleet attacked with new fury. They disabled 20 more ships between both sides. They jammed communications. They hacked computer systems. They turned the organized battle into a chaotic mess where no one could predict what would happen next. Finally, after 8 hours of fighting, both alien fleets retreated. Not because they were beaten, because they were confused, frustrated, and unable to fight each other while dealing with the human interference. Ordered his ships to pull back to a safe distance. We need to regroup, figure out how these humans are doing this, then we will crush them and return to our real enemy. Gave the same order. Fall back, analyze their tactics. They cannot keep this up forever. We will find their weaknesses and exploit them. Both fleets jumped away, leaving the humans alone in the battlefield. Hall looked at the tactical display showing the disabled but intact ships floating in space. Dozens of ships. Thousands of aliens alive who would have died in a traditional battle. Send recovery teams to all disabled vessels, Hall ordered. Repair their life support, give them supplies, then leave them intact. Let them go home and tell everyone what happened here today. Wright woke up in the medical bay 3 hours later. His head hurt and his arm was in a new cast, but he was alive, sat beside his bed. Did we stop them? Wright asked. We forced both sides to retreat, said. First time in 200 years that a battle ended the human base floated in the neutral zone between and space. It was not really a base, just a collection of ships anchored together with defensive systems. But it served as humanity's forward position in the war they were trying to end. Ambassador Torres stood in the small conference room they had built from 2 cargo containers. He was preparing for the most important negotiations of his career. Separate talks with both alien factions. Each side believed they were getting the advantage. Neither realized that Torres was playing them against each other. Admiral Hall entered the room, reviewing reports on a data pad. They have agreed to send a representative. Low level, nothing official. They still think we are beneath their notice. Good, Torres said. Let them underestimate us. What about the same story? They are sending someone to talk, but only because they are curious about our tactics. They do not actually believe we can influence the war. Torres smiled. Then they are in for a surprise. Commander had spent 3 weeks analyzing the human attack. His best strategists had studied the battle from every angle. The conclusions were disturbing. The humans fight like nothing we have ever encountered, his chief tactical officer reported. They use deception, misdirection, and chaos as weapons. Our formations and strategies are useless against them because they refuse to follow any predictable pattern. His 4 eyes studied the data. What about their technology? Surely we can overwhelm them with superior firepower. In a direct engagement, yes. But they will not give us a direct engagement. They hit and run. They disable rather than destroy. They protect civilians, even enemy civilians. It makes them impossible to predict. Felt something he had not experienced in decades. Doubt. Send someone to talk to them, find out what they want. Maybe we can use them against the... High Chancellor was having similar conversations on her flagship. Her advisors had come to the same conclusions about human tactics. They are crude but effective, one advisor said. They compensate for their inferior technology with superior adaptability. Can we defeat them? Asked. Eventually, yes, but the cost would be high, and while we are fighting the humans, they would gain ground in the core territories. Considered this. The war with them was all that mattered. These humans were an inconvenience, but perhaps they could be used. Send a diplomatic team, find out if they can be bought or intimidated. If neither works, we will deal with them later. Tors met with the representative first. His name was a mid-ranking officer with diplomatic training. He looked at Tors with barely concealed contempt. Why have you inserted yourselves into our war, human? Demanded. You have no stake in our conflict with the... Tors remained calm. We have a stake in preventing the slaughter of billions. Your war has killed entire planets. It has to stop. It will stop when the surrender or are destroyed. That is the only acceptable outcome. Then you will be fighting us and them. Is that really what you want? Sneered, you survived one battle through tricks and surprise. It will not work again. We will adapt. Tors pulled out a data pad and showed something. It was detailed intelligence about military operations, troop movements, supply routes, classified battle plans. Where did you get this? Demanded, his contempt replaced by shock. We have been inside your command network for 2 weeks, Tors said calmly. We know your next 3 operations. We know which systems you are planning to attack. We know your supply schedules, and we have shared none of this with the... You are bluffing. Tors showed him more data, specific details that no outsider should know. His expression changed from shock to fear. We could give this information to your enemies, Tors said. We could disable your supply ships. We could make your next offensive fail before it begins, or you could sit down and talk about ending this war. Left without another word, Tors knew the officer would report everything back to. That was the point. The meeting with the representative went similarly. Tors showed them intelligence about their own operations, proving that humans had penetrated their systems just as deeply. You play a dangerous game, human, the diplomat said. You make enemies of both sides. No, Tors replied. I give both sides a reason to prefer peace over continued war, because as long as you fight each other, we will make sure neither of you wins. Dr. Sophie Martin was working on a different approach. She had been communicating with civilian populations on both sides through underground networks. The messages were simple but powerful. Do you know why you are fighting? Do you know what you are dying for? Your leaders have forgotten. They fight because fighting is all they know. The messages spread. They reached families who had lost loved ones, workers who built weapons for a war they did not understand, citizens who were tired of rationing and fear. Sophie compiled recordings of civilian reactions and broadcast them to both military commands. Parents weeping for dead children, families torn apart, entire communities destroyed for territory that would just be lost in the next battle. Make them see the cost, Tors told her. Not the strategic cost, the human cost. Make them remember that they are killing people, not just winning battles. Commander Jacob Hill was running his own operation. His special forces teams had infiltrated both alien fleets again. This time they were not there to disable ships. They were there to gather information. Hill's team found evidence of upcoming operations that would cross lines even by the standards of this brutal war. They were planning to use biological weapons on 3 colony worlds. They were preparing to destroy the atmosphere of an agricultural planet, starving billions. These are genocide plans, Hill reported to Hall. Both sides are preparing to cross into territory they have not touched before, civilian extermination on a massive scale. Hall looked at the data with cold fury. Can we stop the operations? We can sabotage the weapons, but that is just buying time. They will try again. Then we need to expose them, make sure everyone knows what their leaders are planning. Lieutenant Sanders executed the plan with precision. She leaked the genocide plans to civilian networks on both sides, not rumors or speculation, hard evidence, battle orders, target lists, estimated casualty numbers. The reaction was immediate. On Worlds, citizens saw that their military was planning to exterminate 3 billion civilians, including children. On planets, people learned their leaders were preparing to starve 4 billion to death. Protests erupted, not small demonstrations but massive movements demanding answers. The civilians had accepted military targets. They had accepted the slow, grinding war, but planned genocide was different. Received reports of riots on 12 major worlds. His own people were demanding he explain the biological weapons program. How did this information get out? It was classified at the highest level. The humans, his intelligence chief said quietly. They have penetrated our networks more deeply than we thought possible. They found the plans and made them public. For the first time in 2 centuries, commanders faced internal pressure to stop the war. Not from military defeats, but from their own citizens refusing to support genocide. Faced similar problems, her political coalition was fracturing as different factions argued about the revealed plans. We cannot proceed with the atmospheric destruction, one advisor said. Our own people will not support it. Then what do you suggest? Demanded. That we just surrender to the... I suggest we explore other options, starting with talking to these humans. A rogue admiral decided to solve the human problem directly. Admiral commanded a massive ship designed to destroy entire planets. He pointed it at the human base and prepared to fire. One shot and the human interference ends, declared. Then we return to our real war. Jacob Hill's team had infiltrated ship 3 days earlier. They knew about the plan. As the weapon charged, Hill and his team moved through the ship systems, not to destroy them, but to redirect them. Charges set, Hill reported, activating in 3, 2, 1. The fired, but instead of destroying the human base, it created a spectacular light show. Harmless energy patterns that lit up the void like fireworks, beautiful and utterly non-lethal. Stared at the display in horror. What happened? Why did the weapon not fire properly? Someone sabotaged the focusing array, his chief engineer reported. The energy was redirected into a harmless dispersion pattern. Hill's team was already evacuating in stolen escape pods. The mission was complete. They had turned this most powerful weapon into a joke. The failed attack humiliated the military leadership. There, the pride of their fleet had been turned into a toy by human infiltrators. Could not ignore the implications. If humans could sabotage a planet killer, what else could they do? Meanwhile, Admiral Hall was demonstrating human intelligence capabilities in another way. A fleet was preparing a surprise attack on a colony. The attack was supposed to be secret, known only to the highest command. Hall sent the complete battle plan to the 3 hours before the attack was scheduled to begin. She included ship positions, attack vectors, timing, everything. The fleet jumped into the system expecting surprise. Instead, they found the waiting with a perfect counter-ambush. The lost 12 ships without inflicting any damage. It was a devastating defeat. How did they know? The fleet commander demanded. The operation was classified. The answer came in a message from Admiral Hall broadcast to both fleets. We know everything you plan, every strategy, every secret, every operation. You cannot hide from us. You cannot surprise each other. The only way to stop us from interfering is to stop fighting. Watched the message in silence. Then he did something he had not done in 50 years of military service. He called for a staff meeting to discuss peace options. We cannot win while the humans interfere, his chief tactical officer said. And we cannot remove the humans without diverting forces from the front. We are stuck. What are our options? Asked. Talk to them, find out what they really want. Maybe we can reach an accommodation. felt the weight of 200 years of war pressing down on him. He had spent his entire life fighting the victory had always been just one more battle away. But now, these humans had shown him something he had not wanted to see. The war was pointless. It could not be won, not anymore. On the flagship was having the same realization. The humans had demonstrated that they could make the war impossible to fight, not by defeating either side, but by making every operation predictable, every strategy known, every surprise ruined. The human diplomatic vessel Unity hung in neutral space, equidistant from both alien territories. Inside, Ambassador Tors prepared the main conference chamber for the most important meeting in galactic history. If this failed, the war would continue. Maybe forever. Captain Daniel Wright stood beside Tors, his arm finally out of the cast. He had insisted on being present for the peace talks. After all, he had started this whole situation by refusing to ignore the war. "Do you think they will actually negotiate?" Wright asked. Tors adjusted the translation equipment. "They agreed to come. That is more than I expected 3 months ago, but getting them here and getting them to agree are very different things." Admiral Hall maintained a visible military presence outside the Unity. 20 human warships in perfect formation, a silent reminder that humanity could interfere with any renewed hostilities. Commander arrived first. His ship docked with the Unity under the watchful eyes of the human fleet. He walked into the conference chamber with 3 advisors, all of them radiating tension and suspicion. "This is a mistake," one of his advisors muttered. "We should not be here." "We are here because we have no choice," replied quietly. "The humans have made the war impossible to fight. We must find another way." High Chancellor arrived 30 minutes later. She brought her own advisors, including her chief military commander. They entered the chamber and found themselves face to face with for the first time in decades, without weapons between them. The two sides stared at each other. 200 years of hatred filled the room. Tors could feel the tension like a physical weight. "Welcome," Tors said, breaking the silence. "Please sit, we have much to discuss." Neither side moved. They were waiting to see who would sit first, who would show weakness first. Wright stepped forward. "You are both here because you are trapped. The war cannot be won by either side. We have proven that we can prevent any victory. You can fight for another 200 years, or you can talk for 2 hours. Your choice." Slowly, carefully, both sides sat down. Not because they wanted to, but because Wright was right. They were trapped. Tors began the formal negotiations. "Let us start with the basics. What are the core disputes that prevent peace?" Spoke first. "The Occupy 17 systems that belong to the Empire. They invaded during the resource crisis 300 years ago. They must return those systems." His response was immediate. "Those systems have been territory for 2 centuries. We have settled them, built cities, raised families. They are ours by right of occupation and development. The claim is based on ancient history that no longer matters." "See," said to Tors, "they will not negotiate in good faith. They want to keep what they stole." "We stole nothing," shot back. "We claimed unclaimed territory during a crisis that had abandoned those systems." The argument continued for 3 hours. Neither side would give ground. Tors tried different approaches, but each one failed. The hatred was too deep, the grievances too old. Finally, Dr. Sophie Martin entered the chamber. She had been waiting for the right moment. She carried a data pad with research that had taken months to complete. "May I speak?" Sophie asked. Tors nodded. "Dr. Martin has been studying your histories. She has something you need to hear." Sophie activated the display. It showed genetic analysis, archaeological data, and historical records. "I have traced both your species back to their origins. Both evolved on the same. You are not different species. You are the same species that split into 2 populations millions of years ago." The room went silent. Both sides stared at the data. "That is impossible," said, but his voice lacked conviction. "The genetic evidence is clear," Sophie continued. "You share 98% of your DNA. Your languages have common roots. Your cultural traditions have parallel developments. You are fighting a civil war, not in conflict. You are killing your own cousins over territory disputes." Looked at the data, her expression unreadable. "Even if this is true, it changes nothing. 200 years of war cannot be erased by genetics." "No," Tors agreed. "But it should make you question whether this war is worth continuing. You are not destroying an alien enemy. You are destroying your own people." Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the Unity. Commander Grant burst into the chamber. "We have a situation. From both sides are launching a coordinated attack on this vessel. They want to kill the peace process." Jacob Hill's voice came over the communication system. "Security teams are engaging. We have multiple breaches. They are coming for the conference chamber." Tors looked at both alien leaders. "Your extremists are working together to keep this war going. They would rather kill all of us than allow peace." Stood, "That is a lie. Would never cooperate with." "Then explain the coordinated timing," said, pulling up tactical data. "Both attacks launched at the exact same moment. They are using complementary tactics. Someone planned this together." The sound of weapons fire echoed through the ship's corridors. Hill's security teams were fighting a desperate battle against attackers from both species. Wright grabbed a weapon from a storage locker. "If we die here, the war continues forever. Help us fight or watch your extremists win." For a moment, nobody moved, then picked up a weapon. "I will not let assassins decide the fate of my people." Did the same, the "do not run from fights." The unlikely alliance moved through the corridors, human, and fighting side by side against the attackers who wanted to preserve the war. It was strange and awkward, but it worked. Lieutenant Amy Brooks had been monitoring the medical bay when the attack started. She saw one of the assassins plant a bomb near the life support systems. Without hesitating, she tackled the attacker, wrestling for control of the detonator. The attacker was stronger than her, a soldier with twice her strength. He threw her against the wall and raised his weapon. Before he could fire, appeared and shot him. "Are you injured?" asked, helping Amy to her feet. "I will be fine," Amy said, gasping for breath. "Thank you." Looked at the young human woman who had just tried to save her life. "You risked yourself for me, for someone you do not know." "That is what humans do," Amy said simply. "We protect people, all people." In another corridor, found himself fighting alongside Wright. They covered each other, moving as a team despite having met only hours before. "Why are you doing this?" asked as they took cover from enemy fire. "Why do humans care about our war?" "Because we have seen what endless war does to a civilization," Wright replied. "Earth fought world wars that nearly destroyed us. We learned that peace is always better than victory. We want to save you from making our mistakes." Fired at an attacker, dropping him. "We are not worth saving. We have killed billions." "Everyone is worth saving," Wright said firmly. "Even people who have done terrible things, that is the whole point." Jacob Hill's teams finally neutralized the last attackers. The attempted assassination had failed, but barely. 6 human security personnel had died protecting the peace talks. Back in the conference chamber, both alien leaders stood together, looking at the bodies of the attackers, and extremists who had died trying to preserve a war. "They worked together to keep us fighting," said quietly. "Our own people betrayed us to maintain the conflict." Nodded slowly. "The war has become bigger than either of our civilizations. It feeds itself. It creates people whose entire identity is built on hatred." Tors saw his opening. "Then end it, not for yourselves, but for the billions who are tired of dying, the civilians who want to live normal lives, the children who deserve to grow up without war." Sophie pulled up new data. "I have been communicating with civilian populations on both sides for weeks. I conducted anonymous surveys. Do you want to know what I found?" She displayed the results. Over 70% of both populations supported peace negotiations. They were tired of the war. They wanted it to end. But they felt powerless to stop their own governments. "Your people do not want this war anymore," Sophie said. "Only your military and political leaders do, and even many of them are only fighting because they believe the other side will never stop." Sat down heavily. For the first time, he looked old and tired. "What do you propose, Ambassador Tors? How do we end a war this old?" Tors pulled out a document he had prepared weeks ago. "A joint governance zone. The 17 disputed systems become neutral territory, administered equally by both and representatives. Neither side controls them, but both sides benefit from them." "Impossible," said, but her voice lacked conviction. "How would that even work?" "With human oversight," Tors said. "We station observers to ensure compliance. We mediate disputes. We help you rebuild what the war destroyed. And in return, you both agree to end all hostilities." "And if one side violates the agreement?" asked. Then we intervene, Admiral Hall said, entering the chamber. We have proven we can make your war impossible to fight. We will do so again if necessary, but we would rather help you build peace. The negotiations continued for 18 more hours. Both sides argued over details, territory boundaries, reparations, prisoner exchanges, war crimes tribunals. Every point was fought over with the intensity of people who had spent 2 centuries in conflict. But slowly, painfully, an agreement took shape. The disputed systems would become a shared zone. Both sides would contribute to reconstruction efforts. War crimes would be investigated by neutral human judges. Prisoners would be exchanged. Military forces would withdraw to agreed borders. As dawn broke over the Unity, both leaders looked at the final document. Hundreds of pages of agreements, compromises, and commitments. If I sign this, some of my people will call me a traitor, said. Mine as well, agreed. We will both face opposition. But you will also save billions of lives, Wright said. Is that not worth it? Picked up the signing stylus. He hesitated for a long moment, thinking about 200 years of war, thinking about all the friends he had lost, all the enemies he had killed. Then he thought about Amy Brooks risking her life to save people she did not know. He thought about Wright sacrificing his ship for enemy civilians. He signed, watched him sign, then picked up her own stylus. She signed as well. The war was over. The news spread across both civilizations within hours. Some celebrated, some protested, some simply did not believe it. But the fighting stopped. For the first time in 2 centuries, and ships passed each other in space without shooting. The human fleet prepared to return home. Their mission was complete. Hall stood on the bridge of Newton's Pride, looking at the alien systems that were finally at peace. Will it last? Asked. Maybe, Hall said. Maybe not, but we gave them a chance. That is more than they had before. Torres remained behind with a diplomatic team to oversee the transition. He would spend years helping both sides learn to live together. It would be difficult work, but he was ready for it. Wright stood in the observation deck of the Unity, watching both alien fleets withdraw to their new borders. Beside him, Amy Brooks smiled. We did it, she said. We actually stopped the war. We gave them the opportunity to stop it themselves, Wright corrected. That is all anyone can do, give people a chance to be better than they were. And met one final time before departing. They stood facing each other, 2 leaders who had spent their lives as enemies. I do not forgive you for the war, said. Nor I you, replied. But perhaps our children will not have to forgive anything. Perhaps they can simply live in peace. They did not shake hands or embrace. The wounds were too fresh for that, but they nodded to each other with respect. It was a beginning. The human ships jumped to hyperspace, leaving the aliens to work out their own future. They had done the impossible. They had ended a war that 2 advanced civilizations believed was eternal. Not through superior technology, not through overwhelming force, but through empathy, adaptability, and the stubborn human refusal to accept that conflict was inevitable. Ambassador Torres recorded a final message to Earth. The mission is complete. The war has ended. It will take generations for true peace to develop, but the killing has stopped. Humanity has proven that we have a role to play in the galaxy, not as conquerors, not as warriors, but as peacemakers. We showed them that there is always another way if you are brave enough to take it. This is Torres signing off. The galaxy would remember that humans were the species that ended a 200-year war in 4 months. Not because they were the strongest, but because they cared enough to try. Send a message to the human ambassador, ordered quietly. Tell him they are willing to discuss terms. Torres received both messages within an hour of each other. He smiled. The pieces were falling into place. Now came the hardest part, actually negotiating peace between 2 civilizations that had forgotten how to do anything but fight. Good, Wright said. Then Phase 2 begins. What is Phase 2? Wright smiled despite the pain. We make them realize that if they want to fight each other, they have to go through us. And we make that so costly, so frustrating, and so embarrassing that peace starts looking like the better option. No, Admiral, Wright said honestly, but I am willing. Hall smiled. That will have to be enough. The fleet jumped into hyperspace, leaving Earth behind. Their destination was the main theater of the war, the place where the fighting was worst, where the killing never stopped. They would arrive in 3 days. And when they did, they would announce humanity's presence to the galaxy in a way that could not be ignored. The question was how,